In the fall of 1973, two men fishing in Jackson County, Mississippi were startled by the appearance of a strange craft on the riverbank. Three humanoid creatures emerged from the craft, taking at least one of the men aboard. Some 20 minutes later, the creatures deposited both men back on the shore where they were taken, and together with their craft, disappeared into thin air. In the following weeks, the men underwent a series of investigations from police and UFO investigators, all of which served to confirm their story. The subsequent media coverage propelled the UFO issue onto the front pages and popularized the previously unexplored phenomenon of alien abduction. "42-year-old Charles Hickson and 19-year-old Calvin Parker, friends and co-workers at a shipyard in Pascagoula, Mississippi, were out fishing on the evening of October 11, 1973, when they were startled by an unusual noise around 9 p.m. Hickson was the first to hear it. He described it as a buzzing sound that came from behind them. When he turned his head around, he saw a bright blue light moving rapidly in his direction. It stopped within 25 to 30 feet of the pier on which the men were sitting, close enough that they could see a structured craft beneath the light. Hickson described it as being in the shape of a football, approximately 8 feet wide and 8 feet tall, and said that it hovered in place around 2 feet off the ground. Around this time, Parker turned around as well, and the two men watched as the most frightening scene of their lives unfolded before their eyes. Hickson claimed that one end of the football-shaped craft seemed to open up, releasing three strange-looking humanoid entities that floated to the ground. The entities, guessed to be about 5 feet tall, looked to Hickson as though they were robotic, although they had wrinkled gray skin that he likened to an elephant's. Their movements were stiff and mechanical, and they floated over the ground rather than walking on it. In fact, they did not appear to have legs. Rather, they had only a stump-like appendage beneath their waistline that looked to Hickson like two legs melded together. The men saw no eyes or ears on the creatures, and only a small slit for a mouth. Three carrot-like appendages protruded from their face where a human's nose and ears would be. Most astonishingly, the creatures had giant lobster-like claws for hands. Although terrified, the men reported that they were unable to move. They could only watch as the three entities floated over to the pier. After feeling a magnetic force pulling him towards the object, Parker passed out, leaving only Hickson to observe the ensuing events. He claimed that two beings positioned themselves on either side of him, and somehow floated him off the ground, although he never felt the sensation of physical contact. He was then floated away from the river and into the hovering craft. Hickson described the inside of the craft as being relatively featureless, with no chairs or tables. The entire interior appeared to be glowing, although there was no discernible light source. Hickson was floated into a room where a round device about the size of a globe hovered around his body, as if performing some kind of inspection. After an estimated 20 minutes, he was floated back out to the pier where he had been fishing, and was deposited on the riverbank. Only then did he notice Parker, still paralyzed in the place of the initial encounter. As the two men regained control of their senses, they were able to watch the object vanish with a quick zipping sound. The strange creatures were also gone. They left no trace of their presence, and they were never seen again. In a state of near hysteria, the two men drove Hickson's truck to a service store, and sat for more than 45 minutes discussing what to do next. Although they feared the ridicule they were sure to get, they eventually decided to report their encounter through official channels. They called Keesler Air Force Base only to be told that the Air Force had closed Project Blue Book, and that they no longer accepted the responsibility of investigating UFO encounters. The men then decided to contact police. They arrived at the Jackson County Sheriff's Office shortly after 11 p.m. and were received by Sheriff Fred Diamond. Although Diamond doubted the literal reality of the men's story, he noted that they seemed genuinely shaken and agreed to interview them for further details. After intensive questioning, Sheriff Diamond left Hickson and Parker alone in the interrogation room, which was secretly rigged with a hidden microphone. Diamond reasoned that if the men were fabricating the story, they would use this opportunity to drop the charade and plan any further responses. However, both men, completely unaware they were being recorded, continued to discuss the incident in a distressed tone of voice. Parker, in particular, appeared to be on the verge of a mental breakdown. Although both men returned to work the following day and attempted to put the incident behind them, news of the sensational event slipped to the media. Before the day was out, the sheriff's office was swarmed with reporters looking for more details of the event. The tape of Hickson and Parker's interrogation was also leaked to the media and was accepted by many as proof of the men's sincerity. Neither of them, however, sought any publicity, and attempted to escape media attention by staying with family members in nearby Jones County. Eventually, however, the men opened up about their story. Hickson underwent a polygraph, which he passed. The astronomer and newly independent UFO investigator J. Allen Hynek, formerly consultant to Air Force Project Blue Book, visited the men to conduct his own investigation. He was absolutely convinced that they were telling the truth. What's more, details eventually emerged of independent sightings by Jackson County Police that corroborated the men's story. Although the encounter seemed to many to be too far-fetched to believe, there was simply no reason to doubt it. The Pascagoula Abduction has gone down in history as one of the most fantastical encounters with a UFO ever to make national news. The event occurred less than 4 years after the Air Force closed Project Blue Book, at a time when UFOs were considered the subject of tabloid magazines, much as they are today. However, as the grueling story of Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker proved, the perennial mystery of the UFO would not soon lose its popular appeal. Although Parker would later elaborate on his experiences, adding new elements to the narrative, Hickson's story remained unchanged until his death in 2011. The tenacity with which he defended his account of events was a testament to the traumatic and earth-shattering nature of his bizarre experiences on the bank of the Pascagoula River in 1973.